Alliance, LLC.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff. You're listening to Dental MD on KKNW 1150 AM. And if you want to listen to archives of this show, Dental MD, go to 1150kknw.com and look for the Dental MD show and click on archives, and you will see many shows with lots of different topics. And the topics I cover in this show are chosen because they are topics that you're not going to get to hear about at a regular mainstream dental office, and you might not even get to hear about some of these things in some holistic offices if they don't provide certain kinds of services like TMJ therapy or ozone therapy. Not everybody does those things, so you may not get to hear about those therapies and what your options are. So the types of topics that I cover are topics that tend to be controversial. Why are they controversial? Same reason anything holistic is controversial, because the mainstream has a very strong and embedded structure for disseminating information, and historically they've been quite good at blocking out access to alternative ways to manage illnesses or heal the body. And, on the grounds that the alternatives are not real or don't work, or they've checked them out and you don't need to know about them, whatever their rationale or justification is, the medical, pharmaceutical, mainstream industries are not very forthcoming with alternatives in terms of your health and your choices and what kinds of choices you have. Until the internet came along. Once the internet got going, then it was a lot more difficult to suppress alternative choices in healthcare, although there definitely has been a concerted effort to make sure that if you're surfing and finding these things, that along with the results that you're getting from the questions you're asking, you'll notice that there are a lot of mainstream sites that come up when you do a search for something holistic. And the reason those come up is because they want to debunk or redirect you or re-educate you or lead you toward the information that is their preferred education model for you, for your health. So the people listening to this show probably know all of the stuff that I just said, but just for the record, that seems to be the state. If you do any kind of search on holistic, it's interesting to actually click on the mainstream sites that come up when you do a search for a holistic topic, because you can find out on what grounds they're debunking the alternatives and holistic or natural choices for you. And you can have a look and see what the science is and what they're trying to tell you about what they've found out about the research or lack of research, in their eyes, lack of research. And there's a whole lot of research that they tend not to acknowledge or look at or talk about or include when they draw their conclusions. All right. Today's topic is mercury. It's an old topic. We've been talking about it for 150 years. I've been talking about it on the radio for 5 years. And mercury's a big issue in dentistry still. It's really, if you've been holistic for a while, and if you haven't been reading and looking at mainstream or going to mainstream practitioners, you might be surprised to hear that 50% or so of dentists are still placing mercury-containing filling materials in people's teeth as restorative dentistry. Yes, it contains mercury. It's 50% mercury by weight. So it has 4 other metals in there with it. The American Dental Association is still insisting up and down that the mercury that's in these fillings has never caused any documented problems or diseases. But, where are they looking for their documentation? Not in the same place that you are looking or I am looking, because I've seen lots of research and evidence that the mercury that evaporates out of these fillings, it turns out it's real mercury. It's not some other kind of mercury. It's not dental mercury as opposed to the, toxic type of mercury. Mercury is mercury. And, there's a grain of truth in what they're saying, that some forms of mercury do have more toxic properties than others. Ethyl mercury is highly toxic. Methyl mercury is highly toxic. I'm not sure which one of those is the most toxic, but either one of them will make you sick, affect your central nervous system, settle into certain organs, cause problems, and they'll both do that. So take your pick, right? And then the other form of mercury is elemental mercury. I mean, there are others, but the other most common one, elemental mercury, and that is just the pure metal itself, without being combined with anything, without being in a chemical structure. Elemental mercury, that's the stuff that you see that's, rolls around and is shiny and has a very high surface tension. That's why it sits up so high in these beads. It doesn't solidify at room temperature. Let's see. That's the elemental form. It evaporates very quickly. The fumes are toxic. If you were to swallow a glob droplet of mercury metal, it is going to pass through your system. It's not going to have as much surface area as, particulate, or if it were to be broken up into little droplets. And it will pass through your system, and it will not end up being as toxic as ethyl mercury or methyl mercury, which are forms in thimerosal preservative. That's the ethyl mercury. And methyl mercury is the form of mercury found in fish that accumulate mercury over their lifetimes, like tuna, swordfish, shark, etc. Okay, so the metallic mercury has lower toxic properties, but it's still deadly. It's still deadly. And I'm not saying that if you get a mercury filling that you're going to die from it. I'm just saying that mercury metal is a very, very highly toxic substance. I think most people know this, but for some reason, we think if it's in dentistry that it's some other safer kind of mercury, and that's just, not true. It's still quite toxic. Your exposure is low and slow. It's a little bit 24/7 over time. Your system, depending on who you are and your body chemistry, you might accumulate mercury because of your genotype, or you might be somebody that, you go work out at the gym and the mercury sweats out and you're good. It's still not good to be exposed to it, but some people's bodies can detox naturally and not accumulate it, and they don't end up having quite as much long-term problems with mercury accumulation in their system and toxicity. But unless you go get a blood test by somebody that knows what they're looking for, you're not really going to know which genetic type you are. And, overall, the principles of natural medicine say, if there are less toxic alternatives, then that's what we should be using. And there are less toxic alternatives. Now, there are a lot of dentists that have started using other materials besides mercury fillings, but They don't actually, a lot of these dentists, they don't actually believe that the mercury fillings are a problem. They don't think they're toxic. They don't think there's any reason not to use it other than that it's ugly. And so cosmetic dentistry became very popular, and a lot of dentists are placing tooth-colored fillings because they look better. And for a while and up to the present, they've been able to charge more for these. I don't think that's necessarily justifiable, but, you know, it's a cosmetic type of filling, and so there is a premium charged for it. And at the beginning, a couple decades, 3-4 decades ago, when dentists were learning to use the new bonded tooth-colored filling materials, there was some education required. They had to go take courses to learn how to place this material. It is a little bit different technique. It's not more difficult. It doesn't actually take, maybe a few seconds longer, but it's not a significant amount of time longer to place a non-mercury filling than a mercury one. But they did have to go and get educated on how to use it. And so that's a long time ago how the justification for, charging more for these. Also, there is sort of a cosmetic premium and aesthetic dentistry premium. And the materials themselves do cost a little bit more, not really significant again, but they are slightly more expensive than the cheapo mercury amalgam filling material. The problem with these dentists who are placing non-mercury fillings because they look nicer, they don't necessarily agree that the mercury amalgams are a problem. And so when they drill out an old filling that you have to replace it with the prettier tooth-colored materials, they're not protecting you from breathing and swallowing vapor and dust. And I'm talking about mercury vapor directly. As they're drilling, you're breathing it in. That's, a definite toxic hit. You may not get sick that day or the next week, but if you're somebody that accumulates, eventually you may have a problem with toxicity that's noticeable. Everybody who's exposed to mercury has some toxic reaction in their system, but it may be off the radar screen. It may not be something that you notice until it becomes large enough to impact your health and your quality of life. All right, I'm going to talk some more about mercury when I return from this break coming up, and I'm going to talk about the techniques that can be used. There's a large variety of safety protocols for dentists to choose from, and I'm going to talk about some of those safety protocols and what they're used for. And so I'm talking about mercury today. You're listening to Dental MD. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff. I'll be right back after this break.
People say it's hopeless. Money rules the world. It rules with an iron hand. And we're helpless.
So how long has it been since you've been to the dentist? Yeah, I'm talking to you. I know going to the dentist can be tough, but did you know that healthy teeth lead to a healthy body? I know what you're thinking. All dentists are alike. They lure you in for the free exam or, complimentary cleaning. And before you know it, wham! Huge dental bill. And did you even need all that work? Well, why not try a different approach? Natural Dental Health Associates in Issaquah specializes in taking care of you. Their easy, no gimmick, honest approach to dentistry will have you forgetting you're actually in a dentist's office. And the best thing is, they're all natural. Yep, no mercury, nickel, or other harmful chemicals are used. Click on your media player now and get started on the road to better dental health today. Or call 425-427-8899. Natural Dental Health Associates is a proud sponsor of the Dental MD radio show, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on Alternative Talk, 1150 a.m.
I believe in you. Just 4 simple words, but to a child in need, they mean the world. I believe in you means you have potential. You are special. You matter. When you become a child sponsor with Save the Children, you're saying, I believe in you. You are smart. You're capable. You will overcome obstacles that most can't imagine. Your sponsorship says to a child, I believe that you deserve a successful start to life and a solid foundation to build upon. I believe you're worthy of good nutrition, quality healthcare, and the opportunity that education unlocks. Becoming a Save the Children sponsor sends a powerful message of support. It says, I am here for you, to lift you up, to cheer you on, and to celebrate your success. Because when you believe in a child, you empower them to believe in themselves. I believe in you. Just 4 simple words that can bring hope, that can change a life. Visit sponsor.savethechildren.org today and tell a child in need, I believe in you.
Seattle, Tacoma, Antwerp. That's right. We're streamed worldwide on our app and on the web at 1150kknw.com.
People say you're crazy. You can't break that wall. It's too old, too big, too strong. Never gonna fall.
Welcome back. You're listening to Dental MD. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff. Today I'm talking about mercury in dentistry. I talked a little bit in the first segment about different types of mercury. All mercury, even though they have different properties and they do have different levels of toxicity, the different chemical compositions versus elemental, which is the metal itself, slightly different toxicology profiles. However, they are all mercury. And if you look at a list of toxic materials, you will see any sort of list like from NIOSH or any of these organizations that list out toxins and their relative toxicity. You will see that lead is not as toxic as mercury. Mercury is more toxic than lead. But we always think about lead. We know lead is toxic. We don't want even a little tiny bit of lead. Tiny amount of lead, in your water or your air or anywhere, that's grounds for overhaul, cleanup, hazmat suits, all this stuff. Yeah, lead, people used to be more complacent about lead, and then there were, campaigns. Everybody understands now that a little bit of lead is unacceptable, even a little tiny bit. If your child was exposed to a little tiny bit of lead and you thought that was, that's dangerous for your child. That can affect their IQ. It can affect their growth. Wouldn't you take your child to a toxicologist, like a pediatric toxicologist, immediately if you thought your child had been exposed to lead, and see about getting your child detoxed, somehow get that lead out of my child's body as quickly as you can before it does any damage? All right, so that's the level of concern about lead. We know, we understand, we're not complacent about it. Lead is bad and you don't want even a little bit. But for some reason, a little tiny, tiny, tiny bit of mercury every day, 24/7, evaporating out of your fillings and being breathed in or absorbed through your oral mucosa right into your bloodstream. For some reason, we have come to believe that that is all right because it's such a small amount and nobody seems to fall over right after fillings are put in, so they must be okay, right? Well, how's that for short-sighted? So mercury amalgams have been found that the mercury is not locked in. That's what they used to tell us in school and tell the public, that it was locked in. It was safe. The mercury couldn't get out. Once the filling hardened, you're exposed to the mercury while it's being placed in your tooth because it's soft and you're breathing that in. But that's only a little bit. It's okay. And then once the filling sets, we're told, then it's safe. It's okay. The mercury stays in. It's locked in, they said. Well, way back in the, it's been known really for a long time that it's not actually locked in, but until they could look at the fillings with a scanning electron microscope and see the little mercury droplets inside the porosity of the filling. Liquid mercury sitting in there in little droplets. And then over time, those little droplets getting smaller and, the mercury vapor being measured by what we call mercury sniffers or vapor analyzers. Yes. So it was absolutely proven scientifically that the mercury does off-gas out of the fillings. And so the response from our American Dental Association was, yes, oh, okay, yes, it does. It off-gases, but the amount of mercury that off-gases from the fillings, that mercury has never been shown to cause any health problems. Well, that was a declaration made. That declaration stuck. That's what dentists will tell you. It sounds a lot like the tobacco industry arguments, which went something like, well, how do we know that it wasn't something else you breathed that caused that lung cancer or whatever the health problem is that you're blaming cigarettes for? And then eventually it was shown that, yeah, cigarettes are toxic enough to cause those problems. But it took a lot of lawsuits and a lot of decades and a lot of sad and tragic stories. So when it comes to mercury, what we were told is that, yes, it does off-gas, but that amount of mercury has never been shown, they told us, shown to cause any health problems in humans, and that it's only a little bit, so it's okay. And the amount off-gassed from a mouthful of mercury fillings just so happens to be, we were told, a safe level. Well, there isn't anybody else on the planet in any kind of scientific field that looks at toxic materials that would say that there is a safe level of mercury. There is no safe level of mercury. Tiny, tiny amounts of mercury are still mercury. And the safe level for mercury is 0. 0. So, what about these dentists that are drilling it out of your teeth? Is there an exposure to mercury when it's been drilled out? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, there is. It is measurable. You get one of those mercury vapor analyzers, and you can see the amount of mercury vapor goes up when the fillings are touched. As a matter of fact, the amount of mercury off-gassing from the fillings when they are not just drilled on, but touched with an instrument, or after chewing. If you chew on your mercury fillings, which you're supposed to because they're on the biting surface, you chew a little bit, especially if you chew something hot or drink something hot, you're basically refreshing the surface of the filling and getting a new plume of mercury, a cloud of mercury vapor coming up off the fillings. And that is measurable. And it's actually easy to, well, not easy, but you can set up an experiment. If you go online, you'll see these, videos, which people have tried to debunk, but it's just a basic chemistry experiment. You touch the filling on the tooth, and you can see the cloud coming up off of the filling. You can see a plume. It actually looks like smoke spiraling up off the filling surface. If you touch it with a toothbrush, if you rub it, if you scratch it, if you chew on it, if you heat it, you get an increased plume. So, we're getting that. Anyone with mercury fillings is getting that all the time, sometimes more if they're chewing or eating something hot or whatever. Or grinding your teeth, clenching and grinding. And you might notice that if you do have a night guard, you might notice some gray coloring in some of the teeth of your night guard. Those usually correspond to where you have your metal fillings. The corrosion and stuff, they'll turn your night guard gray right in those spots. Anyway, the dentists that are drilling this stuff out who don't believe that there's any problem with mercury in filling material, they're drilling it out, and you the patient, you have no reason to suspect that there's a problem because the dentist doesn't seem to be concerned about breathing it either. The dentist, the assistants, it's being drilled out. There's maybe a suction and some water, but believe me, there's still a huge plume of not only the vapor, but there's a spray of nearly invisible particulate. And as the dentist is drilling, there are these little shiny shards coming off and landing on the patient's face and glasses. If you look at the glasses when they're done, it's covered with a sort of gray dust, and just look at it in the light, and there's little shiny, spots because of the metal. And this stuff is getting into the air and flying around, landing everywhere, and then these tiny little particulate pieces are off-gassing the remaining mercury that was in them into the air. So, it's being drilled out. It's in the air, the vapor and the particulate. It's getting everywhere if there are no precautions taken. It's been shown that if you don't take precautions, this stuff gets literally everywhere, landing everywhere around the room that the procedure is done in, and then it just continues to off-gas. The American Dental Association recommends that dentists check their air quality for mercury once a year. But if you ask your dentist, they probably have never heard that. And even a lot of holistic dentists don't know what the American Dental Association recommends for mercury safety in the dental office, other than the basics: don't touch mercury with your bare hand. That's pretty basic. That's one of the recommendations. Shocking. No, it's a good one. Don't touch it. So we're coming up on another break. And when I return from this break, I am going to talk about specifically the protocols that can be used, there's a large variety of them, for safety, to make sure that not only are you, the patient, not breathing and swallowing this, but the staff and the dentist are not breathing it, and it's not getting in the air, because you don't want to get up from the procedure and walk around in the office, walk up to the front desk, and be breathing mercury vapor the whole time you're in the office, which is the case in many dental offices where they don't have any safety protocols. I'd be willing to bet that their ambient mercury vapor levels in the office are probably a little higher than they should be, which is to say, if there's any, then it's too high. Any detectable mercury vapor. All right, you're listening to Dental MD. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff. If you have more questions coming up in your mind about this, please give our office a call or email us. The phone number is 425-427-8899. And the email is appointments@naturaldentist.com. And I'll be right back after this break.
Remember Berlin. Remember apartheid. Look at the state.
I'm Dr. Anthony Lazarowitz, and this is Climate Connections. Scientists rely on precise measurements to determine how the climate is changing. But new research finds that observations from the rest of us matter too. Simon Fraser University scientists looked at the first-hand experiences of 92,000 people around the world, specifically people who obtain their food directly by farming, hunting, or fishing. From Sweden to Bangladesh and across every continent, most accounts bore witness to changes in temperature, rainfall, wind, floods, and animal migration patterns. The observations also identified some unexpected changes that warrant research, such as more rain in an area where scientists projected less. Co-author Valentina Savo says the study underscores that climate change is already impacting people around the world.
For these communities, it's real, and it's happening in their own villages, and it's happening now.
The changes threaten food security and traditional culture in many of these communities. So Savo says the research team's next mission is to dig deeper for insights on how communities are adapting. As more people share their observations, the more we can learn about climate change, and the better prepared we'll all be for what's yet to come. Climate Connections is produced by the Yale Center for Environmental Communication. Learn more at yaleclimateconnections.org.
Having trouble picking up the Alternative Talk 1150 signal? Well, whether you live in Portugal or Puyallup, Tasmania or Tacoma, India or Issaquah, you can get Alternative Talk 1150 programming streamed live on your computer via our website, 1150kknw.com. It's true, just visit 1150kknw.com and click on the Listen Live button. Make sure you have an audio player installed that will play streaming MP3 audio such as Winamp, iTunes, or current versions of Real Player or Windows Player. Visit our website for more details. Remember, that's 1150kknw.com.
We're the black sheep of talk radio. Alternative Talk 1150.
No wall too tall to fall. No wall too tall.
Welcome back. You're listening to Dental MD. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff. Today I'm talking about mercury in dentistry. And in this third segment now, I'm going to talk about some of the protocols. Obviously, I can't show them to you on the radio, but I'm going to describe them. And you should be able to envision most of what I am talking about. And then if you want to see the equipment that we use, you'd have to come in, have an appointment, have a consult. Let's talk about your mercury fillings. We'll go over with you what we do to protect you and to make sure the air in the office doesn't have mercury, so that even if you're protected during removal of your fillings, you don't want to get up and walk around and breathe mercury in the office. So what we do, there are a lot of different types of protocols. Now, if you are in a dental office and the dentist is putting on a gas mask, like a respirator, that is that's a sign that the dentist understands that this stuff is toxic. However, if the air in the office, even in the operatory, is toxic enough for the dentist to need to wear a respirator, then you can be sure that mercury is in the air in the office, or that they think it is. Now, they may take the mask off when they're done with the procedure, but if they were wearing that mask during the procedure and now they just take it off their face and stand there and, help you get your coat and walk up to the front, and they're still breathing the mercury vapor. If there was enough mercury vapor for them to need a mask like that, a respirator, then when they take that off and continue to stand there, now they're breathing mercury vapor. So, yes, it's a sign that they take the mercury seriously, but it's also a sign that they don't understand the science of air quality and how to maintain the air quality. Or the air quality is okay, and they're wearing the mask unnecessarily because at the distance that we as a dentist sit from your face while we're removing an amalgam, if we've got the right safety equipment, you're not breathing it and it isn't leaving the 3 square inches of your mouth. That mercury vapor should not leave the 3 square inches of your mouth volume and just in front of your face. If it gets past that, then it's in the office air and everybody's walking around breathing it all day. So the dentist and the assistant, we're sitting, my face is at least a foot away from your face, or a foot and a half if I'm sitting all the way up. And there had better not be mercury vapor a foot away from the operating area, because if it is, it's getting all over the place. All right. So the protocols, that mercury vapor mask, you as the patient, you can't wear that kind of a mask. You can't seal off your mouth and nose from the vapor because we need to be in your mouth doing the treatment. So there are a number of different things that can be done for you to protect you from the vapor and the dust. And of course, a dental dam is universally considered the best protection from dust. However, in some types of dams, the vapor can actually pass through into your mouth with some types of dams. But if the suction equipment is adequate, then it should be going into the suction equipment and not through the mask. Now, most dentists, when they put a dam on your mouth, they expose the teeth they're going to be working on. Usually they cut holes for more teeth than they need in order to have the dam kind of down and flat and out of their way. But when you're putting a dam on for the purpose of preventing exposure to you, the patient, the fewer holes we cut in that dam, the better. Fewer holes means fewer places for mercury dust to seep through underneath and get into your mouth. So, fewer holes means it's a little more difficult for us to do our work. I don't care about that. I only care about whether we're exposing you to dust. I mean, as long as I can get my work done, I care about that. But if I have to, tip my wrist a little bit in order to, reach in and or have the mirror, angled a little differently because the dam isn't out of my way completely and I need to angle my mirror differently in order to see your tooth while I'm working on it, to me, that's no big deal. But for most dentists, they are so used to doing everything exactly the same way every time that they would feel like that was a huge inconvenience for them and a trouble, making their life more difficult and their work more difficult. So they will have a tendency to cut a lot more holes to make the dam position more convenient. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing about the dam is that we are trained in dental school to put a dam on in order to make sure your bacteria from your mouth doesn't splash on us. That's the reason for the dam when you're learning how to put it on in school. So the idea of water and sludge on our side of the dam getting through the little holes in the dam where your teeth are showing, that was not considered a big deal because the reason we were told we were putting the dam on was to keep your bacteria from splashing on us, which, that's great. But, the other reason for a dam when you're removing metal is to make sure that you, the patient, are not exposed to the dust. So what we do is we make sure that the dam is actually watertight, which means that when we're working on our side of the dam, water and metal dust particles and sludge are not seeping in around the teeth and getting into your mouth under the dam. Okay, so that's a difference in how we place a dam for the purpose of protecting you from dust, from the removal of your old metal fillings. And then the third thing that most dentists do, and we were shown to do this in school, is you don't want the patient, we don't want you to feel claustrophobic or have the dam kind of be up over your nostrils and make you feel like you can't breathe. That would be terrible and, delay the procedure, right? So, it's uncomfortable. So what dentists are told to do is to cut a semicircle in the dam, and assistants do this. Their assistants are taught to put dams on. That's who usually puts the dam on. And they will cut a semicircle out of the top of the dam to go under your nose, around your nose, so that your nose is not covered. Well, that leaves your nostrils open to the environment of your mouth. In other words, your nostrils face your mouth, and there's going to be a whole lot of dust and vapor right there, which you will breathe in directly if your nostrils are not covered and protected. So how do we cover your nostrils and protect you? We don't just put a dam over and block your nostrils because that's uncomfortable. We want the dam to block spray and aerosol, which shouldn't be getting that far up anyway, but if it were to happen to get up there and, vapor and whatever, we definitely want the dam blocking. So what we do, and we also want you to be breathing air from somewhere else, not anywhere near the operating site. So what we do in our office is we have a tank with clean air. We don't put oxygen on you because that changes your body chemistry, and just breathing pure oxygen for an hour isn't necessarily good for everybody. What you want is clean air, like normal, regular air. So we put a tank of clean air and we bring over a little plastic hood that sits over your nose. It doesn't block your nose. It just sits on top of your nose, and it actively blows clean air on your nose. So that air has a positive flow. The air from the operatory can't get up under it because air is flowing out from under this thing, and it's blowing onto your nose. So that is covering over your nose and leaving your nostrils free and clear to breathe this nice clean air. And then we don't cut the dam around that. We just let the dam sit right up on top of it, blocking any splashes. So that's coming up pretty high on your cheeks, and we also have glasses on you, so there's no splashing anywhere on your face. Now, that's the dam. That's just the dam and the medical air, we call it, which you're breathing, clean air. Now, what about the splash zone around your mouth, the vapor and splash zone? So in some offices, they will put a mercury vapor. It's a big hose that's like a gooseneck type, like you can bend it and it'll stay where you put it. And it's usually about 4 to 5 inches in diameter. And most offices that have these only have one. And if you put that right over the patient's mouth, it will suction away all the air around your mouth while we're working. However, most dentists don't want this thing too close to the mouth because it gets in their way. And they don't want to have to tip their head and look, around the thing. They want to do the work the way they're used to doing it. And so they take this thing that's going to vacuum away all the air from right around your mouth, and they push it out of their way, up over, it's probably like sitting over your chest instead of over your face. And they figure that's, and that suctions the air away into a box on the floor that has mercury filters and other kinds of filters in it for the particulate and the vapor. And that part's good, but if you don't put that hose opening close enough to the mouth, it is not going to be very effective. All that dust and vapor that we're creating when we're removing an old filling is still getting everywhere unless that 4 or 5 inch diameter mercury vacuum is placed within a few inches of your face. And so I have a solution for that. And we're coming up on a break, so I'm going to tell you some more about how I use that kind of safety equipment when we get back from the break. You're listening to Dental MD. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff. If you have more questions about this or you want to see us in action removing mercury, then give us a call, 425-427-8899, or you can reach the front desk, appointments at naturaldentist.com. I'll be right back after the break.
No, a greater power in the hearts of the young and the old. Love for all the children.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
So how long has it been since you've been to the dentist? Yeah, I'm talking to you. I know going to the dentist can be tough, but did you know that healthy teeth lead to a healthy body? I know what you're thinking. All dentists are alike. They lure you in for the free exam or, complimentary cleaning. And before you know it, wham! Huge dental bill. And did you even need all that work? Well, why not try a different approach? Natural Dental Health Associates in Issaquah specializes in taking care of you. Their easy, no gimmick, honest approach to dentistry will have you forgetting you're actually in a dentist's office. And the best thing is, they're all natural. Yep, no mercury, nickel, or other harmful chemicals are used. Click on your media player now and get started on the road to better dental health today. Or call 425-427-8899. Natural Dental Health Associates is a proud sponsor of the Dental MD Radio Show, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on Alternative Talk, 1150 a.m.
Broaden your horizons. You'll be amazed at all the topics we cover on Alternative Talk 1150.
I say no wall too tall, no wall too tall to fall, no wall too tall.
Welcome back. You're listening to Dental MD. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff, and today I'm talking about mercury in dentistry. In the last segment, I was talking about some of the protocols that are available that some dentists use and how we use them, because there are some things like dental dams that are a standard piece of equipment, but which is used differently when you're using it to protect the patient from mercury, differently than if you're just using it for, preventing cross-contamination of bacteria and blood and that kind of stuff. So it is used a little bit differently if you're going to use it to protect from dust and vapor. It's a different setup, different purpose. And I talked about the medical air that we use, which we blow on your nose, and then we use the dam over that to prevent splashing on your face. And then I started to talk about the mercury vacuums. They're big, a big box that sits on the floor, and it's got a big gooseneck attachment that can be like positioned right over your head, your face. But most dentists push it a little bit out of the way so that they can work more easily. Now, the solution that I came up with for that problem, because if it's more than a few inches from your face, if it's just a few inches from your face, it's right over your mouth. I mean, we really can't get in there with a suction, a dental drill, and mirror, and all the stuff we need. So it needs to be a little bit away from your face so that we can get in there, but it needs to be very close as humanly possible to get as much of the vapor as possible to prevent that. This is the very thing that prevents the vapor from getting out into the room and into the office for everybody to walk around in and breathe all day. And for you, the patient, to get up and walk out of the room breathing it. We don't want you breathing it either. We just don't want it in our air. So the solution I came up with was to buy a second mercury vacuum so that I can put one on each side of your face, very close, and still have room right over your mouth to work with my instruments. So, that's an extra $1,000. These things are not cheap. So that, besides the fact that most dentists haven't thought of putting a second one in so that they can still have them very close to your face and still have visibility and be able to work in your mouth. Besides the fact that most dentists probably haven't thought of putting a second one, if they did think of it, they probably didn't want to spend another $1,000 buying another piece of equipment that they can't charge you for. We do not charge patients any kind of mercury safety add-on fee. So dentists that are using safety equipment in their office, extra equipment, taking extra time to do the extra safety methods to make sure you're sealed from breathing or exposure to this stuff. These dentists are spending extra money that they are just doing because it's the right thing to do, because it's the ethical thing to do. Not that a dentist who doesn't use it isn't ethical. It's just that if a dentist knows mercury isn't good for you to breathe and swallow, and they know there are safety equipment available, and they don't buy that equipment, that's unethical. If they don't know it's unsafe, which they should, but if they don't, then they're not technically being unethical by not buying safety equipment. It's only, you cross a line when you know that there's equipment available and you know it would be prudent to use it and you don't do it. So, I'll just throw in another quick example. Dentists know that less radiation is better. The less radiation you're exposed to, the better. But there are still a lot of dentists who don't have digital dental equipment. Why? Because it's $30,000 to change your equipment out and get digital, at least $30,000. And if you want to get a really good big, 3D scanning device for, really high quality scans, X-rays, bigger area, more kinds of films. Those things are $150,000 to $200,000, and most dentists don't want to, buy this very expensive stuff if they don't have to. So, but just when it comes to just check up X-rays and stuff like that, it's still $20,000-$30,000 to set up a digital system. But so there are dentists that are still using the old-fashioned way of doing it because they don't want to spend the money on a digital system because their old system still works okay. They're exposing you to more radiation, even though they know less radiation is better. In my mind, that's unethical. That's just how I feel about it. If you can reduce the amount of radiation, we should be reducing it. Okay, let's talk some more about Mercury protocols. That was just an aside. Mercury protocols. Okay, so then the next piece of equipment. So we've got the dam, we've got the medical air, we've got 2 big 4-inch wide mercury vacuum openings right on either side of your face, preventing any, as much as humanly possible, preventing any of that mercury or dust from leaving the immediate area of your face. We don't want it getting out into the room at all. And then the next level of protection is HEPA filters that will filter very small particulate, trap it, and so we have air filters in every room. They're not any kind of special electrostatic whatevers. They're just really good HEPA filters that are run on high all the time. So our indoor air quality is actually amazing. We don't allow any perfumes in the office. We don't use any formaldehyde or glutaraldehyde products for cold sterilization. Our sterilizer is a steam sterilizer. And we don't spray our disinfectants into the air. We just pour them onto the counter and spread them out with gauze instead of spraying them into the air. So there are a lot of things we do to keep our indoor air clean and safe besides all this mercury safety protocols and equipment. So I think our air quality is pretty amazing in our office, even though we do drill out metal fillings pretty much daily. All right. Well, if you have more questions, some of the other, I started talking about the the respirators that some dentists wear, the sort of Darth Vader kinds of things. Well, there are dentists now that are wearing head-to-toe hazmat suits. Head-to-toe hazmat suits with a vapor respirator on, and they're recommending that you, the patient, not only have a dam, but be covered from head to toe with surgical drape, so you can't see anything. You're under all this paper. The only thing that's exposed is your mouth. And these guys are advocating that dentists remove as much of your mercury as possible, as quickly as possible. And so I don't agree with that. I think that, causes a lot more mercury to get in the air. But the fact is that if they feel like they have to wear a hazmat suit, and then they're going to just, at the end of the procedure, they're going to take off the hazmat suit and walk around in that office, I'm sorry, but if they needed a hazmat suit, then we really need to evacuate the office, if it's that bad. But I think, they did do some studies, one study anyway, that showed that when you drill out this stuff, it really does. If you're not careful, it gets everywhere. But these guys are insisting that even if you're very, very careful, it still gets everywhere. And so everyone should be wearing a hazmat suit. I think that's crazy, because if it's really getting everywhere like that, then people shouldn't be walking around in that office all day long, breathing it. Anyway, that's my opinion. Excuse me. All right. Well, you're listening to Dental MD. I'm Dr. Jessica Saepoff. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Give us a call, 425-427-8899, or email us, appointments@naturaldentist.com, and we'd be happy to talk to you more and answer your questions, and we'd be very happy to see you for an appointment. And I'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
All right, we're going to start with this. Forget what you know about going to the dentist. You know, I'm talking those painful procedures, metal debris flying all around, heavy drugs dulling your senses. Do your smile a favor. Even do your body a favor. Learn about Natural Dental Health Associates. It's just located right off the I-90 on Mercer Island. Natural Dental Health Associates offers only those treatments that are comfortable, safe, and effective. Suffer from TMJ, snoring, sleep apnea? Well, then you'll want to log on to naturaldentist.com. Want to ditch the headgear? Log on to naturaldentist.com. Worried your kids aren't getting the best care possible? Again, log on to naturaldentist.com. Natural Dental Health Associates has received a 5-star EnviroStar rating for the last 20 years. You can't fake caring. You can't fake commitment. So start with naturaldentist.com and end with the smile you deserve.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of KKNW, its management, or other advertisers. Contests are the responsibility of the host.